Okay, so this is our last day of EML, and we took the 8 Mahayana precepts today. So we at the Abbey, we're going to start lunch at 11:45. So our morning session will be short. Okay, so the teaching will be short, and then we'll have a discussion after that, right before lunch. Okay. So recall sentient beings' kindness, how our lives are dependent on other living beings, how we can't survive alone, and we can't practice the path alone either, because generating bodhicitta depends on sentient beings. Then to reciprocate, to do what is only common sense. Let's have the wish to repay that kindness. Not because we're obligated, but because we're grateful. And the best way to do that is through completing the path ourselves, where we will have the wisdom, compassion, skillful means, and power to be of the greatest benefit. So may that be our intention for the teachings this morning and for our whole lives. After we did a group retreat one time in India, Lama Yeshe was talking to the Sangha, and he said, you just recited a lot of mantra in that retreat, but your mantra should really be, I am the servant of others. I am the servant of others. I am the servant of others. And he took his mala and flicked it with each recitation of I am the servant of others. I am the servant of others. I am the servant of others. Okay. So that's why do we say mantra? It's not just to keep our mouths and minds busy. It's not just to accumulate a certain number of recitations. It's to transform our mind so that we see ourselves as the servant of other living beings. Okay, so here we again have this attitude of humility. Yeah. So when we approach our teachers, we're going there with an open mind, admitting we are ignorant, admitting that our minds need training, and requesting help. And when we go with other sentient beings, we also go with an attitude of humility. Yeah. Seeing our dependence on them, appreciating what they've done for us, and wanting to benefit them. So it's not, I am a Dharma practitioner and I am going to benefit you, you poor slob. Okay? That is not bodhicitta. That is not going to work. Okay? So we, in the Tibetan tradition, see, there's lots of signs of hierarchy. And, aside from the hats and the sitting order and all this other kind of stuff, and the height of the throne and the amount of brocade, besides all that stuff, which is, we can get a little bit enchanted, like, I want to have that too. But that is just worldly stuff. Yeah. And the whole purpose of that really is to help us to, have respect for our teachers and then have respect for sentient beings. Okay. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Okay, so there's just a couple more questions. Okay, so somebody's asking, what do you think of the feminist approach that some women believe in? And this is not just a feminist approach, other people think it too. That is, everybody in an organization should decide everything together all the time. Yeah. We would still be in the Stone Age if we did that. Yeah. This does not work because it means that you have to discuss every tiny detail in a group. And whenever you ask a person their opinion, they have to come up with one. So you're going to have as many opinions as people. If you don't ask their opinion, very often people are content with the decision somebody makes. But as soon as they have an opinion, their ego gets enmeshed in that opinion. And it's no longer the opinion that's important, it's the ego and winning and being right that becomes important. So, once upon a time in 1998, was it? There was a group of people doing retreat in Canada. And you were there. Do you want to tell the story? Yeah, or maybe you want to tell the story. You were there too. Okay. It's yours. Okay. So, yeah, but we have to say that there were many of the people were Americans, and then there were some Mexicans there too.
And that's I have the punchline, I may say, for Venerable Chodron. But so they were a bunch of Americans, and our task was to organize our own retreat. Although we were at a retreat center, we had to divide up, what we were going to take, what we needed to eat, what how to divide all that up. And so we had numerous meetings about what people ate, what they needed, how we would do this, how we would do that, how many we would vote on, how much. I don't even think soy milk existed in cartons by then, but anyway, how much of this we needed, how much of that we needed, how much of anybody needed to do, and it all became a group process that was very labored. Once we were in retreat, every time there was a change or something, it had to be also discussed with all 13 people that were there.
And voted upon.
And voted on.
Everything was voted on.
It was the Mexicans that spoke to Venerable Chodron. You have to give the punchline because they didn't tell us.
So this went on for 3 months, okay? Voting how much milk we need, how many potatoes, how to divide the potatoes. Everything was voted on, okay? What? Yeah, see, there weren't enough because there were 13 people and they would give us 12 potatoes, So how you divide the potatoes became a big issue because we had to make sure everybody had an equal amount. Okay, so you had to take a 12th off of every potato so that the 13th person would have what looked like mashed potatoes, but it was actually a whole potato. No, it was 11/12 of a potato. Okay, so everything was voted on. So at the end of the retreat, because it was mostly Americans there. So, Americans, we have to vote. Nobody's telling us what to do. So we debated and we devoted, and countless hours were spent doing that. And at the end, the Mexicans said, we were voting and discussing all these very small details that were not very significant. Why doesn't one person make the decision and we all go along with it? Wisdom. Okay. really, why do we have to have an opinion about everything and process everything to death and have all our ego so entrenched with every decision that's made so that, we have to be right, we have to get our way. And then if we don't, then other people don't care about us. They aren't listening to us. They are doing power over us instead of having power with us. And we are fed up and they don't understand us. And they're just taking advantage and not listening to my feelings. So that's what I think of that suggestion. Okay, then there was another question. Okay, so for many years, I was focusing part of my practice to not have the deep feeling of meaningless and desperation about my life because I wasn't fully focused on the Dharma with monastic precepts. So for me, it was important to develop a feeling of satisfaction with my life and thinking to practice the Dharma wherever I was through my work and other activities. But now I'm questioning those thoughts about, is it really beneficial for my practice and especially for my monastic motivation to keep thinking this way, or could it be an obstacle? Okay, so if it's an obstacle, what is your recommendation for not going back to that sense of desperation and deep dissatisfaction about my daily life, and not to lose and to keep growing my monastic motivation? Okay. So I'm not sure I completely understand the question. So I'll answer what I understand, and then you can tell me if I understood it correctly. So, in developing a monastic motivation, it's not a thing that we want to uh, get into this kind of crazy, panicky mind of, oh, samsara is terrible and I'm going to die and I don't know when I'm going to die. So I've got to practice the Dharma, um, or just this artificial sense of, oh, samsara is disgusting. We don't really feel it, but we've studied the points. Okay, so that kind of thing is not really coming from our hearts. It's coming through an intellectual understanding that actually has misinterpreted actually what we're supposed to be, what the attitude we actually want to generate. Okay, so in other words, you don't want to have this panicky feeling and this like, this kind of how emotional we get usually as ordinary beings. You don't want that. It's a different kind of, it's an emotion, but it's a different kind. It's a sobering emotion. Okay, it's a way of seeing the world where you can see clearly, and your mind, isn't giddy, but it's not desperate and depressed either. It's very clear thinking, and you see samsara for what it is. And that wisdom mind then knows the importance of practicing the Dharma in order to get ourselves and others out of samsara. Okay? Do you see the difference between this desperate mind of samsara is agonizing, and I'm so dissatisfied, with a very clear thinking mind? Yeah. that just sees the situation well and says, I got to do something about this. Okay, can you see the difference between that? Yeah, so that's what we want to generate. Yeah, in the same way, when we meditate on the faults of self-centeredness, it isn't, oh, mea culpa, I am so selfish. What am I going to do? All I do is think about myself. What a horrible person I am. It's not that. That feeling doesn't get, that doesn't get us anywhere. Again, it's an attitude and emotion that's developed through wisdom, through seeing how self-centeredness keeps us trapped, how it makes us miserable, how it blocks us from progressing on the path to our spiritual, to actualize our spiritual aspirations. Okay, so again, it comes through understanding, through wisdom, not through beating ourselves up and feeling awful about ourselves. Okay, so it's very important, when you do the Lamrim meditations, which are very important to do in order to generate the proper aspirations and the proper attitude, that if your mind is getting, anxious and depressed and blaming yourself after doing a Lamrim meditation, then something's wrong. Okay. The mind is not correctly understanding what the Buddha is saying. Okay. So this is very important to see, in the same way when, teachers talk about the disadvantages of, criticizing your teacher. It isn't like, oh, I better keep my mouth shut. But look, I have all this criticism in my mind, and this person really needs to get their act together, but I can't say anything, otherwise I'm going to hell. That's not the idea, the correct idea to get. It's again seeing with wisdom. If my mind just picks faults with the person who's teaching me the Dharma, that doesn't help me take what they're saying seriously. And it doesn't help me put the teachings into practice, because my mind is too busy picking faults and thinking that I'm superior. Okay? So again, if we get ourselves trapped into some kind of anxious mind, we're not really understanding the purpose of the meditation correctly. And this happens. Okay, so we have to be very aware at the end of the meditations and really make sure we're understanding correctly. Okay. So I know that for myself because, in the past, I often got myself all worked up over things that I didn't need to be worked up about. Okay. So it's always the wisdom that counts. Yeah. It's not the looking good that counts. It's the wisdom that counts. Okay. Let me give you another example. Okay. So, in my initial training, I was together with a group of people who just adored our teacher. And he's Buddha. He's Buddha. He's so Buddha. I have so much reverence for him, so much veneration. My teacher's a Buddha. My teacher's a Buddha. I have so much faith. I'll do anything he says, And I'm sitting there going, yeah, I really appreciate the teachings, and the teachings are meaningful to me, but I don't have this adoration, this kind of like, I'm in front of a Buddha, a kind of adoration. And I thought, what's wrong with me? Here are all these people, they have so much faith, they have so much devotion. I'm just, taking in the teachings and thinking about them, and they're meaningful and important to me. But I'm not falling all over everything to express how wonderful my teacher is, and like that. So they have much more faith than I do. I don't have enough faith. What's wrong with me? So I thought that way for a number of years. And then time went on. And then at some point, I kind of checked up the situation. And many of the people who had had that unconditioned devotion and faith were no longer there. Yeah. They had disrobed, or if they were lay people, they went back and got a job or whatever. And I was still there. So it really helped me see that, I was sitting there telling myself I was doing things all wrong because I didn't have the faith and devotion these people had. And I certainly wasn't expressing it, offering this and offering that and falling all over the place. But at the end, I was still there, because the teachings made sense to me. And I thought about the teachings a lot, and they answered my questions. Okay. So, what I'm getting at is, number one, do not compare yourself to others. It does absolutely no good to compare yourself to others. And number two, look for the wisdom, not for the appearance of being a devoted disciple. Yeah. Yeah. One time His Holiness was teaching, and there were disciples there from a Western teacher. And during the break time, I was talking with some of them, and there's, our teacher is a Buddha. He's realized emptiness. You can tell by the way he teaches. He cries when he talks about emptiness. He's really a Buddha. He has realizations, must be path of seeing. Oh, and I'm sitting there feeling like very uncomfortable, thinking, I hope none of my students talk about me like that. So I know from yesterday that you definitely don't. Yeah. So I'm not worried about that anymore. Uh, but this person who his students were falling all over, and some of them still do, was written up in the New York Times for all sorts of crazy things going on with him and with his group. Okay, so it's not, again, how you look and how you talk, it's really what's going on in your mind. Yeah. And I remember one time too, because some people walk into the hall when they're teaching, they have, and I'm not discounting these people. They may be excellent teachers. Yeah, I'm not saying that they aren't, but they have a bunch of groupies following them around, and and then I remember one time my teacher, walking in, just like, kind of his head bent over and just almost invisible, walking in, and thinking, that person is the one who's really powerful, not the ones who, have big to-dos about them. Okay, anyway. So I thought, after carrying this book into the hall, I really should read something from it. Okay, so this is it's Jan Nattier. Did, I think it was her dissertation on the a sutra called the Inquiry of Ugra, and it's one of those proto-Mahayana sutras, one of the early Mahayana sutras, and it really shows how people who are following the fundamental vehicle, aiming for arhatship, and people following the Mahayana vehicle, aiming for Buddhahood, practice together and in the same community. And it's really beautiful because it shows how the whole bodhisattva practice relies on the discipline of the fundamental vehicle of the Shravaka path, okay, or the hearer path. So I thought to read some things here from the sutra. Yeah. So this part is talking about when visiting a monastery. Okay. So the Buddha is talking to a householder here. Yeah. Who he's addressed as an eminent householder. So, a householder who has faith in the Dharma, So, O eminent householder, if the householder bodhisattva wishes to go inside a monastery, he should remain at the monastery door with a well-bred mind, with a gentle mind, with reverence, respect, faith, and veneration, and should prostrate himself towards the monastery. Only then should he go inside the monastery. Okay, so this is how you approach. Yeah, look at the attitude. And he's addressing a householder bodhisattva, so somebody who's not a monastic, but follows the bodhisattva path. Okay, so remain at the monastery door, have a gentle mind, reverence, respect, faith, veneration. Okay, this is reminding me a little bit of the Chan tradition or Zen tradition. And I think it may apply to all Chinese traditions, where you go to the as the story goes, at least in ancient times, you went to the monastery and requested to be admitted, and they turned you away 2 times. And on the third request, if you stuck it out to make the third request, then you were accepted into the monastery. Okay. So, in other words, you have to go and you request, but they want to see if you're really sincere. So, the first 2 times you request, they say no. Yeah. But if you're really sincere and you really want to practice the path in the Chinese tradition, then you ask 3 times. And that's why in so many of our ceremonies, we make requests 3 times to see, to show that we are really sincere about this request. And you'll see that when we do the ordination ceremony, in a couple of days. Okay, so only then should he go inside the monastery, and he should reflect to himself as follows. This is a place for dwelling in emptiness. What is my motive for going here? I want to gain realizations of the nature of reality. This is a place for dwelling in emptiness. This is a place for dwelling in signlessness. Signlessness is seeing the emptiness of causes. This is a place for dwelling in the wishlessness, so seeing the emptiness of results. It is a place for dwelling in loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, a place for the 4 measurables. This is a place of practitioners of meditation, a place for those who have cut off all places, okay? All places where your ego can hang out. This is a place of those who have truly gone forth and have truly entered the path. So gone forth means that you have left the householder life and become a monastic. Okay, that does not mean that you have put on monastic robes and shaved your head. Okay, the outside sign of this inner change is putting on the robes and shaving your head. But really going forth means that you have in your heart, that nobody can see, but in your heart, you have really renounced the householder life. Okay, what is the householder life? It's what we grew up in. Okay, you have a family. You care more about your family than about all other sentient beings. Your loyalty is first to the family. Okay, you have a career. You have to go out and earn money so that you can support your family. You have to have a social status because you represent your family and you have to provide for them. Okay. Having a family, then you have children. You have to raise your children. Yeah. You have to nowadays give your children everything that all the other kids on the block have. So if all the other kids have a certain tablet, you have to get one for your kid. Otherwise, your kids are going to look at you and whine. So and so has the latest tablet, but I don't have one. You're mean. And being a householder and not wanting your children to criticize you and wanting to make them happy and not wanting them to feel like they're being discriminated against because all the other kids have that tablet, you go out and buy them that tablet. Okay. And they want certain shoes. They want certain clothes because they've got to look like all the other kids. Okay. So you've got to buy green hair dye and pink hair dye and, all these things because your kids want to dye their hair. And you can't be the weird parent who says no. Okay. And so they have to have baggy, pants one year and tight fitting pants that they can barely squeeze into the next year. And you have to send them to summer camp. Yeah. And you have to drive them all around and be a soccer parent and go to all their games, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And yeah. Okay. And then, of course, you have to have the car that matches your career that will establish your kids as having parents who, are middle class and, on and on and on and on. Okay. And as parent, as householders, you have to have a social life and you have to Sunday night have family dinners and go to a big family dinner every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every Easter for brunch, and the big and 4th of July with the family. Okay, the extended family, all your cousins, all your nieces and nephews, everybody. Do these people get along with each other? No, but you've got to go anyway. Okay. And you have to have, cook your hamburgers and hot dogs on the barbecue grill and make French fries and have apple pie and sing the Star Spangled Banner on the 4th of July and go to Mass on Christmas Eve. And, you've got to do all of this. Okay. And otherwise, you just don't fit in with everybody, and your family's going to criticize you. And who wants to be criticized by their family? Okay, so this, I'm sure you can amplify more, but this is what the householder life is. Okay, so how much time do you have to practice? Okay, now what you hear from the householders, practitioners is, but household life is a great opportunity for practice. You have to sacrifice yourself, to feed your children in the middle of the night when they're babies. And you have to work so hard for the benefit of other sentient beings to support them. And you have to keep your marriage together, which really means abolishing your ego. So it's very good for practice. Okay, how many of you have been in long-term relationships or married? Okay. What do you think of that? Has it helped you in your Dharma practice? Yeah. And we're not even talking, I don't think how many of you have kids? I think only 2 of you have kids. Yeah. So we're not even talking about the kid part, just the relationship part. Has that propelled you towards awakening? Maybe towards renunciation of samsara. Hopefully, if you learn nothing else from that, you've learned that doesn't bring ultimate happiness inside. And then for your kids, when do you have time to practice? Quite difficult. When do you have time to practice? When they were babies. What did you do? Did you know the Dharma when they were babies? No. Okay, then they become teenagers. Oh, wonderful chance for you to practice. We saw that mama voice yesterday, didn't we? In how to cut the carrots. Yeah. There was the definite mother voice there. Okay. Yeah, we all know it because we all got it. So so just check up. Okay. So that when you go to the monastery, this is the place of those who have truly gone forth. If you've truly gone forth, you do not get involved in your family dynamics. You do not try and mediate when this one's quarreling with that one. Okay? You don't try and patch everything up and spend hours on the phone, trying to calm somebody down or whatever. Okay, out of attachment. If you can help somebody and a family member and you're not attached, who's a family member and you're not attached, okay. But if you're trying to be, the perfect son, the perfect daughter, who, patches up all, the people pleaser family member who's going to make sure everybody is harmonious and gets along, then they've hooked you. You're not free. Okay. So the householder continues. This is how he's thinking when he enters the monastery. When will I be able to go forth from the dusty place? Okay, the dusty place, the dirty place. That means household life. The household place, and conduct myself in this way. And when will I be able to take part in the activities of the Sangha, the activities of the Posada ceremony, which is what we'll be doing this evening, the activities of the Pravarana ceremony at the end of the rains retreat or snows retreat, the activities of paying respects, and so thinking he should rejoice in the thought of going forth as a monastic. Okay. So this person is going in with a real good attitude, knowing what they're getting into and being prepared for it. They're essentially asking for training. Yeah. Now, the thing is, when you ask for training, and when you become a monastic, you're voluntarily doing this. We got to be real clear about this. You are voluntarily asking to be trained. So when you get trained and people are pointing out to you your worldly behavior or inappropriate behavior, why do you get angry? Nobody asked you to come here and be trained. Nobody asked you to take precepts. The precepts are not confining you. They are not imprisoning you. They are liberating you so that you don't have to do the things you don't want to do anyway, unless you really want to go out and kill somebody or rob a bank, sleep with someone. Well, let's talk about that one some more. Yeah. I've renounced no sex. But wow, look at that person who just walked in the room. And the mind starts elaborating and fantasizing, it's like, and then one of your fellow monastics says, it looks like you have some special relationship with that person, maybe, or that you're attracted to that person. What are you doing saying that? Mind your own business. And then what do you do when they're not looking? You take out your cell phone. You look up some porn. You think I'm joking. I am not. Okay. And the rest you can imagine. Do you confess that at Posada? No. Concealment. Okay. So we have to remember that when we, become a monastic, we are doing this voluntarily. And we know it's going to be difficult because our afflictions are very active. They've been with us since beginning this time. They're not going to roll over and die, just by putting on robes. So we have to go in with a courageous mind, seeing the afflictions are our enemy. And when I explain the ordination ceremony tomorrow, there's one verse where we say, great courageous one, and I think that's the verse when you are saying goodbye to your family. Yeah. So you're really knowing what you're getting into. Of course, when people give us advice, yeah, and they see our afflictions and we want to pretend we don't have them, so of course we deny them. We get mad at the person. Our ego, self-centered ego, kind of comes up and does its usual trip. But the thing is, it comes out of the mouth and we act it out, and then we have to stop and go, what have I done? This isn't the way I want to be. We don't say, what have I done? What a bad, terrible, awful person I am. We don't say that to ourselves. We say, I know the kind of person I want to be, and that behavior does not accord with it. So I regret that behavior. I need to work on the afflictions that fuel it in my meditation. And I know that the Sangha community does not hold it against me and think I'm an awful person when I blow it, because they're doing the same thing and they're working with their afflictions in the same way. And they blow it too sometimes. And they trust me not to hold it against them and not to lose respect for them, but to know that they're doing their best. Okay, so I trust the Sangha community to know I'm doing my best, even when I blow it. And when other people blow it, I trust them, that they're doing their best and they're going to work on whatever affliction, caused them to behave like this. But they're sincere in their aspiration. Okay. So it's very different, when we admonish each other, we're not criticizing, saying, "Hey, you stinky person, why are you acting like this? It's so unbecoming. Get your act together, you idiot." Okay. So we're not, I don't want to talk politics, but we're not talking like some of the members of Congress talk. Okay. We don't do that. We are not criticizing and bad-mouthing people for the sake of criticizing and bad-mouthing people and making ourselves look good. We offer advice and admonishment because we care. And so when others give that advice and admonishment, from our side, let's try and take it to heart and realize that they care about us. And if we blow it and all our defense mechanisms, our radar, what is it? The missile radar, what's it called? Huh? We're a Navy. What's it called? Yeah, some kind of missile defense system. Oh, give me the name of one. Okay, so Patriot, instead of our own Patriot missile defense system going, "Well, what are you talking to me like that? I'm not like that. Mind your own business. You do the same thing." Okay. Yeah, instead of doing that, to try and listen. And if we blow it and our Patriot missile defense system, goes, wow, wow, and takes over, after we calm down, we realize I just blew it. We go and apologize. We confess at Posada. And we know that the community, forgives us and that there's no hard feeling or punishment in there. Okay. There's certain things in the Vinaya that, if you transgress certain levels of precepts, there are certain results that come. Yeah. So it's not that people just say, "Oh yeah, we forgive you, that's it." There are results that come. And some of the results are terribly embarrassing. So they become a very good motivation for not doing the action again. For example, let me give you an example. Okay, because we're not allowed to get things in quote, quote, illegal manner. Okay, so we can't go to benefactors unless they have previously offered and said, if you need this and that, let me know. Unless that. But people, who, are maybe not, they're not rich, but they give what they can and they have devotion. We cannot go to those people and say, "Well, I need, what do I need? I need a new pair of forest boots Okay. And I've gone online and I found the perfect pair. They're $300. Here's the thing, you could please go buy them for me. Okay. So this is not considered an appropriate way to procure clothing. Okay. Just going to ask somebody, yeah, who is not offered. So if you get something in an illegal manner like that, okay, then during the posada ceremony, you have to get up in front of the whole sangha and bow down and say, I obtained this object illegally, and give the object back to, one of the bhikshus or bhikshunis. Okay, so you have to relinquish the object. Okay. That's not the embarrassing part, even though you've said it and done it in front of the whole community and they're sitting there staring at you. Then the person you've relinquished the article, then the person you've relinquished to gives it back to you and says you can keep it. And then you feel like, oh God, Yeah, would you feel embarrassed if that happened? You had to relinquish it, and then they give it back to you, and now you have to use this thing that and they know that you've obtained in an inappropriate manner. So so that becomes a good motivation not to do that kind of thing again. Okay. There's other things, more serious precepts. If you transgress them, then you have to do a period of penance, which means whatever your position is in the sangha, you have to go to the end of the line. You have to serve the sangha. All your monastic privileges, for example, the privilege to be counted as a member when you do posada, the privilege of having people offer respect or do things for you. When you are fully ordained, not as a junior, but when you're fully ordained, there are 35 privileges you get, okay? And so you have to relinquish all of those and stand and go to the end of the line, serve the sangha, and every day you have to go before 4 fully ordained people and again confess your transgression. And then at the end of that, you have to have a whole sangha gathering, and the people do another ceremony, another sangha karma to rehabilitate you and take you back in. So, it's a little, do you think that would be a little bit embarrassing every day going and having to confess again what you did? And then, sitting at the end of the line, and you're the one who has to offer tea and clean the meditation hall, and nobody can show respect to you. They can't Anjali to you, with your hands together. Yeah, so there's things like this, okay? And it works. Okay, so let me read just a little bit more and then we'll take a short break and come back. Okay. And so thinking, he should rejoice in the thought of going forth as a monastic. For no bodhisattva who lives at home has ever attained supreme perfect awakening. Okay, this is the position of the Theravada school believes that unless you are monastic, you cannot attain arhatship, or if you are a layperson and attain arhatship, you have to ordain within a week, because otherwise your ordinary body cannot hold the virtue of being an arhat. That position is not held now, at least not in the Mahayana tradition. We say that lay people can attain arhat, can attain Buddhahood. Okay, but those who have done so have all gone forth from the household, and having done so, they have thought of the wilderness. They have had the wilderness as their goal. And having gone to the wilderness, they have awakened to supreme perfect awakening. And it is there that they have acquired the collections of merit and wisdom. Now, going to the wilderness, okay, our fascination with finding that cave. Okay, it's not about finding a cave. Yeah, it's not about literally going to the wilderness. It's about leaving the household life and entering the monastic life. You'll remember in the 37 practices of bodhisattvas, okay, who can remember the verse? Whenever I have to quote something, I have to remember it. Yeah. How does the whole verse go?
Attached to your loved ones, you're stirred up like water. Hating your enemies, you burn like fire. In the darkness of confusion, you forget what to adopt and discard. Give up your homeland. This is the practice of bodhisattvas.
Yeah. Okay. So give up your homeland means that you're giving up everything that is familiar and comforting in a household life, meaning having financial security, having people love you and tell you how wonderful you are and always support you, having your social standing, all these kinds of things is the meaning of give up your homeland. Okay, so because you can go to the wilderness and your mind is thinking, I hope everybody in my family and everybody down in the village knows that I'm practicing as a yogi in the wilderness, enduring all this suffering with the snakes and the caterpillars and the what is it? Those hornet wasps, the ones. What? Yeah, the murder wasp. Yeah. I am in the wilderness, renounced with my cell phone, checking the internet, social media every day to see if my friends are talking about me and if they're planning on walking up here and bringing me some offerings. Okay, so it's about in your heart, leaving your homeland. Okay, so with that, I think we'll conclude the morning teachings.